Grenada is on a list of countries eligible to receive free vaccines against COVID-19. So it's now a matter of when we will get the vaccines. However, there is a lot of concern because of misinformation, which has led to a lot of fear about the vaccine. So I reached out to two friends, both in the medical field in the United States, and they got the vaccination last week, one from Moderna, one from Pfizer. So first up is Annette Thomas. She's a trained radiological technologist, and she is now the director of quality at Brockton Neighborhood Health in Massachusetts. She's originally from Blackbay in St. John, and she got her vaccination on December 23rd. This is her experience, and she is sharing it with you to help reduce your reservations.
It has been a very challenging time, especially living in a neighborhood that has so many high-risk patients. I mean, I currently work at a facility where on a weekly basis we have at least 200 positive patients. And, it's really tough. It's really a challenge. And as healthcare workers, we're trying our best to see what we can do to really curb this pandemic.
Okay, so what is your profession right now and where do you work?
So currently I am the director of quality at Brockton Neighborhood. So basically my job entails taking a look at, high-risk patients and how COVID could actually impact them. Taking a look at, the outcomes of patients on a day-to-day basis. And right now I'm actually charged as the telehealth chief for my institution. So basically what that is basically trying to ensure that I can pivot my staff from the building to working at home, but still ensuring that what we do, we're at least still able to take care of our patients on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so how many staff are you in charge of and how do you do your job? Like make sure that they're safe from home to the job, back and forth and so on. How do you do that?
So we currently have about 500 plus employees. And of that 500 plus employees, I have at least 50 of them under my domain. I also oversee the interpreter services because we have a huge diversity program at my institution. So I do have at least 50 staff working with me. But the other thing to note is I am also a radiologic technologist. So I do understand the administrative side of it and the stress of the frontline workers.
You talk about the stress of the frontline workers. You say you are in a neighborhood with high-risk patients. COVID vaccine is out. And you say, as a matter of fact, on a weekly basis, you have at least 200 patients coming positive with COVID-19.
That is correct.
The vaccine is out. Are you one of those who received the vaccine?
I am. I actually received the vaccine last Wednesday.
Were you, I know you have a medical background, but were you apprehensive about taking it? And what got you over the hurdle?
So I would say yes. So initially, I would say if you asked me that question, probably 2 months back, if I'm going to take the vaccine, my response would have been, I will wait and see. Because I also was very, very skeptical about the vaccine. I was very skeptical about the time frame for the vaccine, because at that point in time, I didn't have sufficient knowledge about the vaccine. And one of the things I would say to people is getting information about the vaccine is the most important thing in making your determination. So one of my hesitation, and I will talk about my hesitation, because I'm speaking to you guys just the same way I thought about it. I was hesitant because I said straight up, I look at the number of deaths in the US. Right now, we have over 300,000 deaths, right? And I'm like, I'm not putting COVID vaccine in my body. I said that, right? But what we need to understand right now is the fact that this vaccine does not have COVID in it. This vaccine actually came from what we call an mRNA technology. So what you're basically doing is training your body that when a foreign body like COVID actually comes into your body, it can attack that virus. It can fight off the virus. So you have an option. I had the option of thinking, do I want to be able to protect my body where my body can build that immune response? So if I do in fact get in contact with COVID, am I going to be able to fight it? Or do I have the option to sit back and wonder, at what point would I actually get COVID, especially living in a high-risk community? So we have that choice. Do we want to do preventative care, or do we want to be able to get the virus and continue living a life of anxiety and not be able to do our day-to-day job?
So we know that there is the Pfizer one and the Moderna one. Which one did you get, or are you aware?
I actually got the Moderna one, and one of the things with the Moderna one, unlike the Pfizer, is the transportation and the storage of it. So especially within my facility, which is a smaller facility in comparison to others, you know, we took a look at, do we want to be able to buy those refrigerators in comparison to the larger hospitals? You know, so how are we able to administer it, and how fast are we able to administer it, and what do we feel most comfortable with? So we did actually get a Moderna vaccine. But
so okay, side effects. What happened to you?
So there are. So I would say for viewers, whenever vaccines are any vaccines, no matter what, vaccines have side effects, and the reason why vaccines produce side effects is to show that it's really and truly working. That's a good thing, to have actually side effects out of the vaccine. So one of the things that some of my colleagues, I actually did not have any side effects whatsoever from the vaccine. No sores, no fever, no nothing. My only side effect was pure joy. I was happy, I slept well, I was at a point where I'm like, I'm ready to get to Grenada, put me on that plane, because I feel now that I can protect the people around me and I can protect my community. So I actually had no side effects from the vaccines. We had about, I would say, at least 150 staff right now that's vaccinated. And we had out of that 150, probably about 10 individuals who indicated that they had muscle soreness, and probably one person had fever. And the expectation is that you might have a fever or any type of side effect for probably 1 to 3 days, but after that it subsides. But no severe reaction from any one of the any staff member from my institutions that died. So, and I would say to you also that the other thing that made me think of the vaccine, I actually took a look at the numbers from both Pfizer and Moderna, because I think whenever people have to make decisions, just read for yourself, get the facts about what is in the vaccine, how the vaccine works. And I think sometimes we tend to look at Facebook and read comments from others, but you need to know exactly what you're getting into. And when I took a look at the trial information, I noticed that, they actually did a trial of over 18,000 people. And of the 18,000 people who were put out there, at least 5 of those individuals actually got COVID. But even if they did get COVID, they got a mild symptom of COVID. So that's why they're saying the vaccine is actually safe. It's effective, because you're not seeing that high level of reaction to it in comparison to people who didn't have that vaccine.
Okay.
So that's sort of made. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I said, so that actually helped in terms of my turning point about, is that vaccine safe, or is it really and truly effective? So just knowing that information and knowing the fact that that's very important to note. No one that has received the vaccine has died from the vaccine. There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of information out there that people died, people fainted from the vaccine. The data has not shown that. And I just want to clarify that that information is a little bit misleading, and people need to understand that.
Okay. Now, one of the things you hear people talking about right here in Grenada is about the microchip in the vaccine. Now, from my understanding, we already have the so-called microchip. The phone we always using and the watch we have, that to me is already the vaccine, or the microchip. However, you have not in your speaking so far talk about anything about microchip in the vaccine. Please, I know you're a medical person. I always knew you crazy about science. Please explain to me. In your reading, in your findings, did you come across anything about any microchip in the vaccine?
No. So I will tell you straight up, there is no microchips in any vaccine. What you have in the vaccine is a series of ingredients, one, to be able to train the body to deal with immune response. They also put other ingredients in there because they want that vaccine, when it enters the body, to be able to enter the body and react with the cells in a way that is safe. So an example I tend to say is, think about oil and water, right? The body is like oil. The vaccine is like water. Oil and water doesn't mix. So even though you create a vaccine, which is like water, in order to penetrate the oil, it got to be oil and oil. So they would add other things in there so it could penetrate the oil. So the ingredients in there has nothing to do with any microchip, but you're going to see additional ingredients, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the vaccine, but to ensure that the vaccine does in fact get to the cells and get to the cells in a safe manner. So no microchips. Actually, as someone who took the vaccine, what we have been doing is we have a website through the CDC, so every day we can go in if we have any side effects or anything we feel from the vaccine, we can document. So obviously what is happening to me, the CDC wants to know to see if there is anything that is happening to the population around taking the vaccine, because right now we have at least 2 million people that already got the vaccine. And think about it, healthcare workers are the first workers getting the vaccine. Our job is all about saving lives. Why would you think they're going to give it to healthcare workers first? And mind you, it is a diversity of all healthcare workers, no matter race, color, creed, age. Okay? It is proven to be safe. I'm talking merely from taking a look at my colleagues, not just at my job, but we belong to an entire Massachusetts group. We speak to each other every day. I was just in another meeting with other workers, and I'm like, how do you feel? You took the vaccine, and everyone is great. Everyone feels great. So I'm just advocating to you guys that the vaccine works. There is no chip in there. The ingredients are pretty safe. It has proven, and as you saw, it says 95% effectiveness. Initially, my hesitation was, we're going to approve something that's at 60%. I'm like, I'm not going to take anything that's at 60%. 95%, now you're speaking my language. What about the other 5%? The other 5% was the individuals who did in fact receive the vaccine. They got COVID to an extent, but it was not a severe case of COVID. So that's why they had to exclude them from the group. So that's where the whole 95% comes. That 5% did not mean that the patients died. It meant that they got some type of reaction from COVID.
Wow, you're awesome.
No, I have to do a lot of reading in an effort to be able to take that vaccine, because I think it's important for people to understand that it's not a live, and I'm going to say it again, it's not a live virus, it's not a dead virus. You are not injecting COVID in your body, and people need to know that. The vaccine is aimed to protect your body against foreign disease. People are saying, it takes, why was it done so fast? Vaccines take years. We have to be mindful that this technology is something that was around since the 1990s. That mRNA technology. This did not start in 2000. What happened this year is the fact that one, COVID was so rampant, you have so many people involved in the clinical trials. Two, you got funding that you never really had before. Three, you already had the technology. It's just that the scientists had to figure out what that RNA was, and they applied it. There was no shortcut in the process. FDA went between looking at it step by step by step, and then they approved it. So knowing that and having that information, it really changed my mind about how the vaccine works. Yes, why is it that it took a shorter period? And you know what? We're going through a pandemic. It's now our chance as individuals, as Grenadians, to stop the pandemic, to go out there. We are a community that love each other. We want to hug each other. Christmas just went by. We were not able to go to each other's houses. I want to be able to come back home and go to one another's houses. So I think it's very important that we do something to just stop this pandemic. I'm very passionate about it. I'm going to encourage everyone to take this vaccine, because I see how much my workers are happy. We are ready to go out there, and I know you definitely want to be able to do the same thing.
Next up is Dr. Johnela Adolphus, who is a hospital physician in North Carolina. She received the Pfizer injection on December 22nd. Dr. Adolphus is originally from Beaulieu in St. George. Here is her experience, which she hopes will help to reduce your reservations about the COVID-19 vaccine.
I'm currently in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have been here for about 4 years, working at one of the largest health systems here called Atrium Health. I work at their Carolinas Medical Center facility. So that's where I am currently.
So are you a general physician or
So yes, I'm an internal medicine trained physician, and I work purely in a hospital. So I'm referred to as a hospitalist. So internal medicine, we moved away from the traditional medicine where the doctor went to the hospital, then went to the office. They separated those two worlds and created hospital medicine. And then you have your physicians who are in the clinics. So when
Understood.
your clinic patient gets admitted, I take care of them. When they leave, they go back to you.
Now, you're in North Carolina, you're in the hospitals.
Correct.
What has been your experience with COVID-19?
So COVID has given the medical community a wake-up call, if you want to call it that. Our hospital system was structured in such a way, or should I say our group structured it in such a way to cut down on physical contact with patients with COVID. So we relied heavily on telemedicine and virtual medicine. So we had what we call a telemedicine provider. So a physician would mostly see the patients through a camera, and somebody would roll that camera into the room with the stethoscope attached and examine them that way. We had nurses who helped us with that, and I kind of cut down with the contact because it's so highly infectious. It's a new disease. So if we cut down the amount of contact, it will decrease the risk of you losing manpower.
Okay, so then the nurses are the ones on the front line.
So it's just one. We have a telemedicine nurse who goes from room to room with that.
And is in
full gap.
The fatigues.
Yes.
Yes.
But as numbers have gone up recently, we have had, so those of us who not purely working with the telemedicine group, we have had more contact with COVID patients who are actually positive and have symptoms, because that's usually the ones in the hospital. If you have no symptoms, you don't need to be getting acute care. It's heartbreaking sometimes to watch at a patient. She's completely panic stricken, 50-something-year-old lady, no major health problems. She got it from her daughter, and her biggest complaint was feeling very short of breath with anything she did, walking 10 steps to the bathroom and back, and requiring oxygen. And she was in tears because she was so scared of what could happen. Okay. So that part of it is very heartbreaking. And for me, you feel like your hands are tied because I can't fix you. I could support you, but there's nothing I can do to make you better.
Okay, so that brings us now to the vaccine. Did you take the vaccine? I
did take the Pfizer vaccine. Tomorrow will make it a week ago. Initially, I hemmed and hawed about it, and I wondered, this vaccine, would it really work? They're doing this so fast, and medicine is we rely on evidence, right? COVID has zero evidence. It dropped out of the sky. We don't have anything from the history books to tell us what to do, how it works, how it affects the body or anything. So this one is on the job learning. And the more I saw people get infected and get super sick, I think, I say this tongue in cheek, but I think dying from COVID is an out to be. Let me explain myself. It's heartbreaking as in this country over 300,000 people lost their lives, but the morbidity from it is heartbreaking. There are people who have lifelong or seemingly prolonged, not lifelong, but prolonged memory issues. They have ongoing respiratory issues. Some people still require assistance to breathe, so they have a tracheostomy, which is basically a hole in your neck with a little tube into your lungs to help you support your breathing. I've seen patients on dialysis. I've seen patients, literally have strokes and blood clots and all these complications from COVID.
Okay, as a result of COVID, and they didn't have it before.
Correct. Okay. Correct. and you've had the patient who've had one or two little problems. They maybe are diabetic, but not too bad. To the people with 50 health problems and the gamut of them, I can't predict who's going to do well.
Okay.
At a 97-year-old, she did very well. She was at the tail end, just still using a fair amount of oxygen, so she couldn't leave the hospital, and she did a complete U-turn. Mm-hmm.
So then that pushed you to take the chance to get the Pfizer vaccine.
Yeah, and I thought about it. This is the one time, at least in my lifetime, where you have the entire medical community. This is like worldwide working for one goal, right? You might have this researcher doing cancer research, this one doing new medication research, this one doing this, but you had all these big companies and researchers working towards one common goal. Let's see what we can do to fix this on a world. It's not a US thing, it's not a European thing, it's not, an Australian thing or whatever. It's just multiple people across the globe working with one common goal.
Okay. All right.
So we all had the same goal. So I'm like, you know what? If we're considered frontline, we're on the, the soldiers out there. If I get sick or one of my colleagues gets sick, who's going to take care of that person who needs us?
So you got the Pfizer vaccine.
I got my Pfizer vaccine.
What are the side effects for you?
So the only side effect I had was my arm was a little sore. And it wasn't sore to limit me. It wasn't sore to cause me to take anything. I went about my day as usual.
Okay. And it's almost a week, and you've had.
It's almost a week. Mm-hmm. I have no scars. I have no marks. I have no funny lettering. My arm does not function on its own.
Okay, we get to that. There are lots of concerns, put it out there, about the vaccine.
Right.
Notably, the whole microchip business and other issues.
Right.
About it. You're in the
Right.
medical field. What do you say to that?
So I always say, for a minute, take away hearsay, and information is readily available, right? You go and get firsthand information. That's one. If you know somebody who got the vaccine, like, okay, I got it. My brain is still working. I'm not setting off any alarms when I go places. My arm is not functioning independently. I do not hear voices. I'm still controlling me. So if and if you think about it, a vaccine comes in a very small vial of clear liquid. So as my mom said, they'll have to dissolve the microchip in it, small enough to go through a tiny needle into your arm, and then it come back together. If you just think about, apply logic, common sense, and research. Look it up. All the ingredients of the vaccine are listed on their various websites. I personally looked it up just for curiosity. Like, what was the big difference between Pfizer and Moderna? And, one had to be like crazy cold, one doesn't, things like that.
I think Pfizer has to be really cold, and Moderna
doesn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know one concern is about Black people and the vaccine. There were Black, I think both Moderna and Pfizer, if I remember correctly, they both had at least, I think, anywhere between 7 to 10% of the research population were Black people. I think Pfizer had like 40,000 people. Moderna had I think, based on what I remember seeing, a little slightly less. But we were involved in the study. So people who look like me and you were involved in the study. And with all of this is new research. So you have the short-term side effects and whatever else with the vaccine. What the information we don't have is long-term. I don't know what consequences are going to be 20 years from now, 2 years from now, or even 12 years from now. Mm-hmm. So I don't have that information. Nobody has that information. But I'm sure that's what our foreparents and whoever felt like when they came out with the measles vaccine, right? And we all take it like nobody's business.
I know.
Or a tetanus vaccine,
Yes.
right? So our generation just happens to be the pioneers, right?
Oh,
That-
listen to her. You're on the frontier of medicine.
I am on the frontier.
Oh my gosh. Anything else you want to share with your Grenadian people about concerns they may have about taking the
COVID.
vaccine and COVID?
So I said, if the vaccine, or I should say, if and when, I think ultimately it'll be a when the vaccine becomes available, right, to Grenadians, take the vaccine. What do you have to lose? Right? Stop and ask yourself. Don't worry what Miss Mary doing over here or this neighbor. Sit down with you or your family or whatever. What do you have to lose? Yes, we're an island, but we're not a bubble. Right? Grenada was supposedly COVID free for however long, and here we are dealing with a certain amount of cases that's going on.
Yeah, and we are a country that is heavily dependent on tourism.
Tourism, that's right.
So
I don't think we'll ever stay immune or in that bubble where we can keep everybody out and keep ourselves, COVID free, right? So since we're so heavily reliant on tourism, we need these people to come in to help the economy and generate money, right? Why not protect yourself? Protect your taxi driver. You're working in the hotels. You're in the market, for Pete's sake. All it takes is one person to spread it, right? All it takes is one. And if you can protect yourself, you're protecting you, you're protecting the family, you can protect the people you're coming in contact with. And on a whole, if you have a population, luckily we 110, 115,000 people. If we can protect 110,000 people, hey, again, we're an island, but we're not a bubble. The world is no longer a separate place.
Thank you for viewing Serrano Mitchell Worlds. Please like, comment, and share. I am Serrano Mitchell. Have a good one.